support the Jews, the enmity will increase. And that is why the Western world remains an enemy if it supports, and of course, the most notable, my mentor, teacher, and my greatly respected, most highly esteemed Excellency, Professor Bakior, when she comes to speak, listen to her very carefully because she has much to say on this matter. Two-state solution. Back to the Einsteinian solution of two-state problem analysis. It seems to me as a result that when somebody has a very, very strong and a very high fever, the two-state solution looks like sponging somebody down, never treating the infection. Only treating the symptoms, never the infection, never the cause. Therefore, if we remain as such, the problem is going to remain. Obviously, it is a monumental task to bring the whole issue of Israel and of the Jews within 25 minutes, but I trust that we haven't done too bad. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Sam Solomon. Please buy a copy of his book outside, and he'll be happy to sign it for you afterwards. About 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I started being aware that there's sort of an issue out there, and started talking about some of these issues with my friends, including my friend James. And we'd get together, like you probably do every now and then, every now and then you sort of like, here's a link on the web, and here's a book, and do you know Robert Spencer, and do you know Bruce Power, you read his book, and do you know this website, The Religion of Peace, and do you know this, and do you know that, and around 4 or 5 years ago, we started talking about this woman by the name of Bakior. And it became sort of a code word. It was like, are you aware of Bakior? And more and more people would be like, yeah, I've read Bakior, yeah, Eurabia. It was really clear that this was a very, very important book by a very important scholar. And one of the great things about running the Free Thinking Film Society is that I largely get to choose the people who come and talk to us. And so last year I brought in Bruce Bauer, and we sort of had a very short list of people who we really wanted to bring in. And Bakior was at the top of the list. Bakior is a remarkable woman. I shall tell you, her family was ejected from Egypt in the 1950s. She moved to Europe to make an intellectual life for herself, where she's written several books, some of which are available outside. She's a very important scholar on the life in Europe for Jews and Christians under Islam. She's come up with the terms dimitude to describe how Jews and Christians lived under Islam. Her book, Eurabia, the coinage of the term Eurabia, was the first, and it's become extremely prescient. And so I can't tell you how proud I am and how pleased I am to have Bakior here in Canada. So would you please welcome a remarkable woman, Bakior.
Thank you very much, Fred, for this very kind introduction and presentation. I feel, in fact, very humbled and by this welcome. And I would like to say how honored I am also to be in Canada. It is not my first visit to Canada. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, thank you.
So I was invited already in Canada, and I strongly appreciate my presence and open-minded, that has welcomed me and my message at a time which is difficult to accept such a message. And I am also a great admirer of the policy of Canada, which is standing up for the rights of a small country which is targeted by the greatest power of the world, and Canada is standing by it. So, I would like to thank also the International Free Press Society of Canada and the Free Thinking Society, Free Thinking Film Society, for having invited me to discuss tonight with you the challenges and the dangers that are looming in the future. Sam has shown to you how we are strongly linked with the past, our present, and our future. And of course, it is because of this situation, the present situation, that bring the past into the future, that and because we don't realize, we don't know the past history, we cannot realize the danger that might destroy forever our Judeo-Christian civilization, that we are feeling so weak, we cannot enter, we cannot defend ourselves. But this situation, which is prevalent today, a situation of denial in the West, of national disintegration, of self-rejection of our own identity, and I would say also of dimitude, which is submission, and a way to internalized Islamization, is also the result of a political, a well-planned policy in Europe. I will not speak of Canada because this doesn't apply to Canada. But in Europe, this policy of alliance with the Muslim world started in 1973 with the European Community siding with the Arab League and the jihadist PLO terrorist organization against Israel. This policy was sponsored by France and Germany, and it has established the base for political and religious and historical denial of jihad, which is a threat and a war not only against Israel, but also against the Christian world. This denial has characterized now Western politics. It has transferred on Israel and Europeans the guilt of war and terrorism, and especially the guilt of self-defense, as we see now with the flotilla war against Israel, flotilla aggression against Israel. The flotilla expedition against Israel is in fact a way to provoke Israel, and in order to denounce the Israeli policy of self-defense against Hamas, which is a terrorist genocidal organization. The charter of Hamas, of course, has promote the destruction of the state of Israel, but not only of Israel, but also of every Jew. And whatever is said about the Jews is also said about Christians, because in the Quran and in the Sharia, the condition of Jews and Christians are exactly the same. So we see now that the whole world is gaining against the self-defense policy of Israel and has adopted the Islamic view of considering that a non-Muslim state that defends itself against jihad is aggressing the Muslim world, is an aggression. So Israel is seen as an aggression state, as while in fact it is Israel which is defending its right to live in freedom on its own country. And this attitude, this transfer of guilt and aggression on Israel is also transferred on the Western world if it defends itself against Islamization. Another factor of this situation lies in globalization and in the cultural Muslim hybridization of the West pursued by Europe through an official commitment with the countries of the Arab Leagues and other Muslim countries. Globalization aims to suppress national state sovereignties by the global governance. This policy was conducted for decades by Javier Solana, who represents the foreign minister, if you want, the commissioner for European policy. And for Javier Solana, a peace in the world will come when the United Nations, which represent a global government, will govern the whole world. So Javier Solana's policy was to weaken the sovereignties of the national states in order to build up the power of the United Nations. So it is within this deconstruction of states and nations to build the United Nations, world governance, that the European Judeo-Christian national and cultural identities that are at the root of Western civilization are being contested by multiculturalism, an ideology that promotes values contrary to ours. This situation results from the European Union desire of rapprochement with the Muslim world and the countless transnational networks of dialogues it built to achieve this aim. If we consider, for instance, the Alliance of Civilizations, which is a gigantic network linked to the UN, the Alliance states clearly that it will work in political and cultural sectors for the rapprochement of Islam and the West, and in fact it is promoting at the UN level and at the universal or international level the OIC agenda. The OIC is the organization of the Islamic Conference. Now, my last book, which was published in Italian and will be published in French soon, in my last book, I examined the policy of the OIC. The OIC is a body that represents 56 Muslim countries, plus the Palestinian Authority. It was created in 1969 as a collective Muslim organization to destroy Israel, but it has also a well-planned strategy regarding the Western world.